the bouquet never landed on the floor. It never bounced into a crowd of laughing bridesmaids or disappeared into a sea of reaching hands. Instead, the moment it touched my best friend's hands, she stopped smiling, turned around with tears already filling her eyes, and walked through the crowded wedding reception straight toward my lonely table. Every conversation faded into silence as dozens of confused guests watched her every step. I had no idea why she was coming to me, or why my heart suddenly felt like it was breaking before anything had even happened. That single walk changed not only my life but also the meaning of friendship forever. Before we continue this unforgettable story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness so you never miss another emotional story that reminds us how powerful love, loyalty, and compassion can truly be. Everyone thinks weddings are about the couple standing beneath beautiful flowers, exchanging promises that will last forever. But sometimes the most important story at a wedding belongs to someone sitting quietly in the corner, trying not to be noticed. That day, I was that person. My name hardly appeared in anyone's conversations anymore. Just months earlier, I had been planning my own wedding, dreaming about a small home, a peaceful future, and the family I hoped to build. Then, almost overnight, everything disappeared. My fiancé left after admitting he had fallen in love with someone else. The apartment we were saving for was gone because we had emptied our savings for wedding expenses that would never happen. Friends slowly stopped calling because they didn't know what to say. Invitations became fewer. Smiles became forced. Even looking into a mirror felt difficult because all I could see was someone who had failed at building the future she had imagined for years. The only person who never disappeared was my best friend, Emily. We had known each other since elementary school, surviving awkward teenage years, college stress, first heartbreaks, impossible jobs, and countless ordinary days that somehow became unforgettable because we experienced them together. She never judged my tears. She never rushed my healing. Some evenings she simply brought coffee, sat beside me without saying much, and reminded me through her quiet presence that I wasn't completely alone. When her younger sister announced her engagement, Emily insisted I attend the wedding despite my reluctance. I told her I couldn't bear watching everyone celebrate love while mine had fallen apart. She gently reminded me that love wasn't only romantic. Sometimes the strongest love came from friendships that never asked for anything in return. The ceremony was breathtaking. Soft sunlight filtered through enormous oak trees while white flowers lined every aisle. The bride looked radiant, her happiness almost glowing from within. Families laughed together. Children chased bubbles across the lawn. Couples held hands as musicians played gentle melodies in the background. I smiled whenever someone looked my way, but inside I felt like I was watching life continue without me. Every joyful moment reminded me of everything I had lost. At the reception, I quietly chose a table near the back of the room. It allowed me to observe without feeling like I belonged in the center of anyone's celebration. Emily occasionally glanced toward me with reassuring smiles before returning to help her sister enjoy every magical moment. I appreciated her kindness more than she could ever understand. As the evening continued, the music grew louder and excitement filled the ballroom. Then came the familiar tradition everyone expected. The bride gathered the unmarried women onto the dance floor, laughing as she prepared to throw her bouquet. I stayed seated. Superstitions about catching flowers leading to marriage seemed almost cruel after everything that had happened. Emily reluctantly joined the crowd after her family insisted. The bouquet flew high through the sparkling lights. Time almost seemed to slow as dozens of hands reached upward. Then Emily caught it cleanly against her chest. Cheers erupted across the room. Cameras flashed. People clapped and laughed. For one brief second, she smiled like everyone expected her to. Then everything changed. Instead of celebrating, Emily looked directly at me. She carefully held the bouquet, stepped away from the cheering crowd, and began walking toward my table. Every guest watched in complete silence. Confused whispers spread across the ballroom. Even the musicians slowly stopped playing. I felt every pair of eyes following her while wondering what could possibly be happening. She reached my table and gently placed the bouquet into my trembling hands. There was no grand performance, no dramatic speech meant to impress strangers. Instead, there was only one simple truth written across her tear-filled face. She wanted me to understand that she believed my story wasn't over simply because one chapter had ended. In that deeply emotional moment, every flower represented hope instead of tradition. Every petal carried the message that broken hearts could bloom again. The room erupted into applause unlike anything heard all evening. Some guests wiped tears from their eyes. Others smiled through emotions they hadn't expected to feel at a wedding. Even the bride began crying as she embraced her sister, realizing that the most beautiful gift given that day had nothing to do with expensive decorations or elegant dresses. It was an act of pure friendship. Holding that bouquet didn't magically erase my pain. My future didn't suddenly become clear. But something inside me quietly shifted. For the first time in months, I stopped seeing myself as someone abandoned by happiness. Instead, I remembered that I was still deeply loved by people who truly mattered. The following weeks weren't perfect. Healing rarely follows a straight path. Some mornings still felt heavy. Certain songs still reminded me of promises that had been broken. Yet every time doubt returned, I looked at the dried bouquet resting in a glass vase beside my window. It reminded me that someone believed in my future even when I couldn't believe in it myself. That small reminder encouraged me to apply for a new position I had previously been too afraid to pursue. It inspired me to volunteer at a community center on weekends, helping families facing difficult circumstances. Listening to their stories slowly changed my own perspective. Pain no longer became something to hide. Instead, it became something that helped me understand others more deeply. Months later, life quietly rewarded courage in unexpected ways. While organizing a fundraising event at the community center, I met someone who had also survived heartbreak. Neither of us was searching desperately for another relationship. We were simply two people learning how to smile honestly again. Friendship came first, followed by trust, respect, laughter, and eventually a love built not on fantasy but on genuine understanding. It grew slowly, patiently, without pressure or fear. When Emily met him for the first time, she smiled exactly the way she had on the day she handed me that bouquet. She didn't say she had predicted any of this. She simply hugged me tightly because she knew the woman standing before her had finally found herself long before finding someone else. Years passed, and another wedding invitation eventually arrived. This time, it carried my own name beside the man who had taught me that healthy love never asks us to become someone else. During our reception, guests eagerly gathered for the bouquet toss. Laughter filled the room as memories rushed back. I caught Emily watching from across the dance floor with tears sparkling in her eyes. Before throwing the bouquet, I looked around the room until I found a young woman sitting quietly alone near the back, wearing the same uncertain expression I once carried. Without hesitation, I walked directly toward her and gently placed the flowers into her hands. She looked completely surprised, unable to understand why I had chosen her. I simply smiled because kindness always creates another beginning. If this story has touched your heart so far, please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness always comes back." Your words may encourage someone reading the comments who is quietly struggling today. As I returned to the dance floor, I realized that hope is rarely loud. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks or dramatic miracles. Sometimes hope walks across a crowded room carrying nothing more than a bouquet of flowers and the unwavering belief that someone else's story deserves another chance. One act of compassion can echo across years, changing lives that may never fully understand where their healing truly began. That is the quiet power of friendship. That is the extraordinary beauty of choosing kindness when someone else feels forgotten. And perhaps the greatest gift we can ever give another person is not advice, money, or perfect words, but simple faith that tomorrow can still become something beautiful. If this story moved you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Ripple of Kindness. Together, we can continue spreading stories that remind the world that second chances are real, friendship can heal broken hearts, and even the smallest act of kindness can change a life forever.